And we welcome you to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still going.
We hope the holiday season has been healthy. Happy Matt Money Smith here, the old Zeuser, right there, the engine that propels this Power Rankings ride. And good on him for taking a sabbatical from his Christmas caroling quartet, where he's joined by old Scott Stapp, Gavin Rossdale, and Chad Kroger, so he could be here today. Dan, we appreciate it because we know how important it is to carol out there for the kids.
All right. They're my own version of the Irish tenors and angels, the voices on all of them.
Exactly right. Let's get to it. The rankings that you authored and can be found at NFL.com/Power Rankings. No surprise, and the gap has widened between the Chiefs and the rest of the pack thanks to the Steelers sliding yet again, dropping their second consecutive contest. They sit at 1. But Dan, before we get to 1 through 8, let's go right below the Chiefs at number 2 and the Green Bay Packers, who after the Saints loss now control their own destiny on a road to the Super Bowl that will have to run through Lambeau.
Absolutely. It's been a really great season for the Packers. Listen, they went 13-3. Gotcha. Right. They went 13-3 last year, but you didn't hear a lot of positive buzz about the team because it wasn't always impressive, their route to get to those wins, even if they made it to the Final Four. I don't feel it this way this year that people are looking down at the Packers on any level because Aaron Rodgers is having one of the great seasons in what's been a magnificent career. Davante Adams catches a touchdown or two every single week. Their backfield with Aaron Jones is healthy, and the defense and the Mike Pettin defense is always going to be something that's viewed with suspicion by Packers fans, and I get it, but it's good enough when the offense is this great. So factor in home field advantage and a potential bye, and how do you not love the Packers right now?
Yeah, I think, as opposed to doing the football analysis, which for me is regularly mediocre, and click that QR code there. Go ahead, snap that shot to get to the Power Rankings. Read the extensive analysis, speaking of analysis, from that man, the old Zeuser. But for me, it's just logistics. And it is a different year, and it's going to be different now moving forward every year, whereas before, you wanted to get one of those top 2 spots, right? So you could get the bye. I mean, there's no greater advantage in the postseason than having to play one fewer game to get to the Super Bowl, especially when we all know the physical toll that a game of football takes against the human body. So not only do the Packers now have that supreme advantage as the only team that would have a bye in the NFC, but it's Lambeau. And the next 2 teams in line behind them are the Saints and the Rams. We know about Drew Brees splits, home and road, let alone road in January in Wisconsin. And that's how they say it there, Wisconsin. And we also know the Rams play in L.A., and their quarterback's Marin County, Cal. So that, to me, is just the decided advantage for that team. And like you said, look, they're balanced. They can run if it's a gnarly January day for a postseason with Aaron Jones. They have Davante Adams, arguably the best receiver in the league, and a guy who's going to be in the conversation as the MVP. So it's really shaping up, like you said, Dan. Last year,
in the conversation, money.
Yeah.
This is the favorite after Mahomes had 3 picks. I think Aaron Rodgers is the heavy favorite for MVP. And again, go look right now, your fantasy teams, everybody, where Aaron Rodgers went in those drafts. No one expected this season. It's been, and what's been a pretty crummy year for everyone overall. Getting to see Aaron Rodgers play at this beautiful level has been, a nice little gift under the Christmas tree of life.
I always love spinning a positive out of, hey, it's been a really crummy year. And this is good. So let's appreciate it.
I love gold.
What else is good is the wild card, and the wild card that is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills taking over the AFC East. The baton, actually, it wasn't even handed to them. They just straight stole it from the Patriots as they look to now be in control of that division. And we asked the question, Dan, how close is the gap between the Chiefs and the Bills, or how wide is the gap?
Okay, so the Chiefs, to me, are locked and loaded as the best team in football entering 2020, entering December, and entering the playoffs. However, what we've seen with the Bills, especially the last couple of weeks, like on the power rankings this season, I had them almost all year just hanging out right around 10, which was almost a showing more of respect, knowing the potential that the team had to come together. But we weren't seeing a total team effort early on. It was Josh Allen playing out of his mind, carrying them, and then they made it through a middle portion of the season where Allen fell off a little bit. But now, coming out of the bye, you have Josh Allen playing like an MVP, and you have a defense that is revitalized and looks a lot like those defenses of the early Sean McDermott era. So you take that offense with this defense, and you can't tell me they don't have a chance to beat anybody in the playoffs, including the Chiefs.
Well, one of the things you look for, right, is can you overcome adversity? And the Bills have won so many games in different ways. Look, Josh Allen was good. He wasn't great against the Steelers. The running game was okay. It wasn't great, but the defense was exceptional. I mean, I just think back to the game that I called with the Chargers. He did not have a good game, but Devin Singletary did, and Zach Moss did, and Brian Daboll is so good at adjusting and playing the hot hand and figuring out what the identity of his offense has to be on any given day. And in this one, it was a ton of Stephon Diggs and just kind of these quick strikes from Allen as opposed to these big downfield throws that were able to cut up the Steelers, kind of in a game that they want to play, right? Dink and dunk. But the fact that their defense can get after you with the blitz, they have a solid back end of the defense. And, they had a pick six in this game, and that's kind of what was sort of, again, I'm going to use the same phrase, but just kind of that straw that stirred the drink on that particular Sunday. And I think that's what makes them so impressive, is their ability to win in so many different ways.
And I want to give some credit to Brian Daboll, because I think it really stood out in that game. The Steelers and their offense didn't have a lot of an imagination to it. But Daboll and Allen are just humming. They're just such a great team together, great pairing. I don't know if it lasts beyond the next month or so, because I think Daboll's going to get hired as a head coach off what he's done this year.
Yeah, it's been so impressive because, like you said, it's been peaks and valleys, right? You got to overcome those valleys in order to win a division and try to get up to that number 2 seed in the conference. Let's go to the Ravens. They get the big win on Monday night, the game of the year. It's going to follow us here. It's on the network. That thing should be replayed on a loop the rest of the day. It was such a great contest. But what are your takeaways from watching what they were able to do against the Browns?
I mean, the game was a joy to watch. It's the rare game. My wife, Emily's not a big football fan, but she's on the couch. Even she's plugged in at the end of the game because it was just a roller coaster. It was like watching a movie or something, the way everything played out. And to me, like, if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm flying right now because Lamar Jackson looks like the Lamar of last year now. He's got that swagger. He also, he had to go to the locker room. I don't know what was going on in the locker room, money. I don't want to know what was going on in the locker room, but all we do know is he came out of the locker room in the most dramatic way possible. With Trace McSorley going down with the knee injury and Steve Levy with the ESPN call, like Willis Reed coming out of the tunnel at the Garden, and then immediately hits Marquise Brown with, to me, was the most electrifying play of the 2020 season. So the Ravens have this guy back. They have MVP Lamar back, and it changes everything in the AFC.
Yeah, I would just say, just to build on what you said with Greg Roman, I mean, it looks like the Ravens from last year, right? And they tried to recognize their failures in back-to-back postseasons where they trailed and they needed to get some sort of passing attack working, and it's just not happening. And when the chips are down and you have to win out in order to make the postseason, perhaps because of just kind of the way these tiebreakers are working out in that sort of COVID stretch that they went to, what do? They went back to what works and what other teams just simply can't stop, and that is running the heck out of the ball with Edwards, with Dobbins now, and with Lamar. And a lot of those weren't designed runs like we had seen so often last year, but they were kind of designed runs, right? They also, in terms of the passing game, they got back to doing what Lamar prefers, which is throwing inside the numbers. A lot of those seam routes, a ton of targets for Mark Andrews, especially on third down. The one red flag for me is no sacks of Baker Mayfield, 6 touchdowns, over 500 yards of offense. That defense still has some issues that side of the ball has to overcome.
That was a disaster on defense, especially in the last quarter and a half or so. But sometimes, Money, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but sometimes you have these type of games that are those historic, wild, back and forth games where it's almost becomes an outlier for the team. Something bigger takes hold. So I don't want to bury the Ravens defense in totality based on what happened in the second half, but obviously it wasn't a good look. They were lucky to have Lamar to save the day.
No, I think it was reminiscent of Monday Night Football a couple years ago, right? The Rams and Chiefs, and just this back and forth heavyweight fight that was wildly entertaining. And man, we're all better for it. And again, it's going to follow us here on NFL Network as soon as we wrap up Power Rankings. But up next, grab your khakis, that blue blazer, and bust out the sound and the fury, because we're digging into the AFC South. Will we crown the Colts or take the Titans to win the division crown?
I have to put my khakis on? Am I going to...
Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Here is our second quadrant, 9 through 16. You can get the article at NFL.com/power rankings that our man, the old Zeuser, authored. You see the Browns there at number 9. How about the Colts and the Titans at 10 and 11, though, Dan? Let's kind of knock that out and work our way through the AFC South here, and which of those two teams you think comes out on top.
Yeah, this is an awesome division race between two teams that are so close. They're different types of teams. I think the Titans are more top heavy, but the Colts, the reason I like them is the balance. You could argue that they're the most balanced team in the AFC. Not the best team or the team with the best players, but the most balanced team. And Jonathan Taylor's arrival or re-arrival on the scene here. If you remember when Marlon Mack went out with the Achilles in week 1, the thought was that Taylor, as a rookie, was going to step in and go from Wisconsin as a star to the NFL as a star. And it doesn't always work out that way. Then he disappears, hits the COVID list. He's come back and been a different guy, a difference maker. And you know money as well as anyone with Philip Rivers as the voice of the Chargers, that you need that balance in the offense that Jonathan Taylor now is giving them. And when you factor in Taylor's arrival on the scene and T.Y. Hilton getting hooked up to the rejuvenation machine, this offense is great. The defense is solid. The coaching is good. Mwah.
Well, I would say, unless you're facing a team that's got a pass rush, because Philip Rivers has been two different quarterbacks this year. When the pocket's clean and he's got time to throw, and look, he's got the benefit of having one of the best offensive lines in football in front of him, all is well. When it's not, it can get ugly in a hurry. That's why the guy's got a couple games where he's got ratings down in the 60s. He's got a few games with ratings in the 80s. He's got a couple multiple interception games, and I think that's the one concern. So as you plot the path and you see what they have remaining, it's a Houston team coming up next that should have beat them were it not for a botched snap between Watson and his center. And then they got to go to Pittsburgh, and we know that defense can heat you up. And the issue with the Colts is they've got to win one more than the Titans because of the tiebreaker. Because the Titans, all they have to do is knock off Houston in their final game, and they are guaranteed the tiebreaker because the division wins as these two teams split. The other thing I like about the Titans is I just feel like they have an identity. I don't know if that Colts offense has an identity, and I think part of it is you're talking about Jonathan Taylor and his penchant for putting the ball on the ground. That's why he slipped to the second round. He is a supreme athlete. But he's got some issues in pass pro, and he had some issues at Wisconsin with fumbles. So that's a little disconcerting, too, when you're talking about slim margins, winning a division, winning a playoff game. I still like the Titans to be able to knock off Detroit and Houston. Maybe they get a little bit of trouble with Green Bay there when they have to go to Lambeau. But you know what? They have an offense that's set up for Lambeau in the cold weather.
Yeah, and I think the Titans might have a little bit of a higher ceiling, but the Colts have a higher floor. And my one thing with Tennessee, and we talked about it last week, that defense is get them beat and ruin their season at some point. That's the only thing that's keeping me from saying that they're there with the Bills and the Chiefs as top Super Bowl favorites in the conference.
Yeah, I cannot push back on that. The defense has been nothing short of atrocious for most of the season, and a good performance against Jacksonville does not get you a pass for the remainder of the season. Let's go to Washington. The Washington football team takes over the top spot in the NFC East, and Dan, they may end up getting to a 500 record and foiling all of our snarky comments over the course of the first 14 weeks of Power Rankings.
No, I'm just going to take the victory lap because you were in early on Washington, then you bailed and you got behind the G-men. But guess what? The old Zeuser dug in deep and said, no, Washington is the team 2 weeks ago, and now I'm on top of the division. It feels personal, and you have to go sit in the corner with the dunce cap and Joe Judge and Jason Garrett and talk offensive football.
Seems a little harsh. Certainly not the best idea, I think, for Joe Judge to bring Daniel Jones back, someone who has to have use of his legs in that running game in order to be not an exceptional, but just an average quarterback for a team that was relying on defense and just a smidge, a modicum of offense from the other side of the ball in order to get those 4 straight wins. So that seemed like an error in judgment for a rookie. Pardon the pun. I did not mean for that to come out for the rookie head coach. Here's the one thing about Washington, though, and this is not and who doesn't want Washington to win? I mean, Ron Rivera fighting cancer, Alex Smith coming back from what some thought was going to either be an amputation or perhaps even death. I mean, that's how dire the circumstances were. It's the best story. It's the best comeback story in the NFL. We should all want that to come to fruition. But much like we projected at the start of the season, Matt Rule and the Panthers are going to get someone. and they're going to ruin it, and they're going to ruin a playoff push, and they're going to because there's just something about that guy and his ability to come up in big games.
We're still on that train because the Panthers have lost seven of eight.
That is the only path I think I have to the Giants getting back in there with them playing the Browns, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. All right, another team that I believe
Chase Young, by the way,
money. Chase Young's unbelievable.
My goodness, that guy.
Well, you know what? And we asked Baldy when he joined us a few weeks back, should they have taken Tua? Did they make a mistake? No, they did not. Nope. I planted my flag in the Raiders as a wild card team I thought could make it in as the 7th spot. That is not looking good now. How you feeling about the Raiders after getting humiliated by the Colts?
Yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, I thought this was different, this Raiders team. We had seen so much from them in the realm of the positive, especially those 2 games against the Chiefs. And then they've gone and done the same thing that they did last year. They had that miracle win against the Jets, should have gotten beaten by the winless Jets, and they sandwiched that gift with 2 losses where they give up 40 burgers. So, yeah, this team is an absolute free fall. Yeah. We know that the panic button has been pushed at Raiders headquarters because Paul Guenther doesn't have a job anymore, the defensive coordinator. And it's just like, man, I look at this playoff picture in the AFC, the bottom of it. We were talking about the 7th seed, and there still is a path for the Raiders to be in the mix. But at the same time, I said that I was riding with the USS Gruden. I'm still on the boat, the ship, but it has taken on some serious water. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. They really needed the Browns to win that game last night to thwart the Ravens' advance, because now I think you look at the path of the Ravens and it's pretty favorable. Look, they have a bad defense. It's why Guenther was fired, but boy, they fire him in a short week coming up with Thursday Night Football against a Charger team that you could argue should have won. Had Parham just held onto a ball, you had Justin Herbert throwing 2 fades in the end zone. Both passes were caught and couldn't be controlled to the ground by Mike Williams and then Parham. And on top of that, they didn't have Austin Eckler in that game against the Raiders. So that's what they're dealing with, a division opponent here on Thursday, followed by a heck of a defense of the Miami Dolphins. And man, they got to win all 3, and they got to get a little bit of help, and I don't know if that's in the cards moving forward. All right, do not move, because when we return, Philly going to be up here in this house, man. Colleen Wolfe is going to join us, get all happy over Hurts hammering the Saints on Sunday. Are the Philadelphia Eagles ready to retake the lead in the NFC? No, we're not going to. Nah. Back on Power Rankings, presented by Energizer. Third quadrant, 17 through 24. Still a couple playoff hopefuls in there, particularly there at 17. But let's focus. We kind of scratched the surface on the conversation, Dan. I had the New York Giants for the last couple weeks as the team that would emerge after their 4-game win streak from the NFC East, and it certainly looks like it's going to be a much tougher road here moving forward. Your thoughts on the Giants and whether or not they are done in the race for the division crown?
You get the feeling that it's at least possible at this point that they peaked, that they kind of hit their high point of the season, and there's a chance here that they go down. And the Daniel Jones situation to me is the major issue. Why? Because this offense has never been good this season. And of course, they lost Saquon Barkley in September, and that was devastating. But Jason Garrett has not found a way to push the right buttons, and Daniel Jones hasn't progressed the team the way the team would like. Now, a compromised version of Daniel Jones with 2 bad legs, I don't know how this team scores enough points to win.
You know, we said it, and I'll just repeat it. It's inexplicable that he was put out there behind an offensive line that has had issues, and boy, Andrew Thomas was just terrible. I mean, terrible. When you see what Jedrick Wills and what Mekhi Becton and what Tristan Wirfs are doing, and you had an opportunity to get each of those 3, and you went with the other guy who got humiliated by Hassan Reddick all day on Sunday. That is a serious concern moving forward. We'll get to more on that later, by the way. But just I look at the Browns and the Ravens as their next 2, and man, it's hard to envision them winning one of those 2, and they would have to win those 2 and the Cowboys in Week 17.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas needs to be better, and it just shows you want to be a GM? Well, there's a cautionary tale because everyone thought that was a locked and loaded pick, and it is not working out for them.
Are you ready? Jalen Hurts, the rookie. Congrats, kid. Your first NFL start against the best D in the league.
There's Hurts. He is floating the football. Touchdown!
And it's intercepted. It's picked off by Duke Riley. And wide open, it's Rager. First down and a lot more.
And it's Sanders breaking free. He's at the 40, 30, 20. Touchdown!
The legs of Jalen Hurts bringing the Eagles all the way down the field.
He gives it to Sanders. He's in! Touchdown!
This is a great team, and I'm just so excited that we got this win today.
All right, we're coming off that 17 through 24. So, look at that, still going. It's Philadelphia's Benny Franklin, Bobby Saget, and C. Everett Koop all rolled into one. A distinguished Drexel Dragon alumna. You see her on Thursday Night Football and Good Morning Football. It is Colleen Wolfe celebrating a wild Eagles victory, Colleen. Jalen Hurts gets the start. They knock off the Saints. You got to be feeling pretty good today, huh?
Or celebrating Wild Night Out.
I feel wonderful. Listen, I thought this was a sunglass show. I thought that's what we did here. I feel like more alive than maybe I've ever felt all year. And it's just been such a great way to celebrate. I'm eating crimpets here, eating tasty cakes. Like, this is, what a time to be alive, guys.
All right. Well, I like this because you could say, given the circumstances of this Eagles season, Connie, that darkness should set in, and maybe you would be in the corner of a room rocking, having not showered for a month or so. But it seems like you have now, it seems like you have now reassessed the situation and you have positivity all around you. That's good. I credit you for that.
You know, I feel like this is the life that I want to live. And for the first time all season, I didn't want to scratch my eyes out watching the Eagles. So it was a very different feeling. If I feel like I actually have a pulse again, and the Eagles look like they have a pulse again, which is awesome. Like, Jalen Hurts wasn't sacked. He threw a touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey on 4th and 2. I mean, let's get crazy. This is a wild year, and the Eagles are just following suit.
So let's just say that flagpole rag and the wind won't stop is the banner of Jalen Hurts maybe winning out here for the rest of the season. Where do you stand on the head coach, the front office, and whether or not this particular, I guess, off the field production of Eagles folks can save their jobs and maybe make it into 2021? Is that what has to happen in your opinion, Colleen?
Well, I think that Doug Peterson proved a great point just in what he was able to do with Jalen Hurts, because this team looked completely different. Like, I feel like the players around Jalen Hurts, they played better. It was such the spark that they needed. And they lost so many players on defense in that game. They just lost another offensive lineman. I mean, this team should not be good. And, you know, they aren't when you look at their record. But the performance that they had against one of the top defenses in the entire league against the Saints, who have been on an absolute roll. Yes, I know Taysom Hill did not have a good game, but still, this was what they needed. And they're not technically out of it yet in the NFC East. So I think that if they are able to continue this and maybe go on a little bit of a run, somehow, some way, these front office members are going to save their job. Now, what they do with Carson Wentz in the offseason and the contract that they have with him now is a totally different question. But if they're able to find success with Jalen Hurts, then they will have success too.
Before you get in there, Dan, I just want to make sure we get this going pretty quick, because I'm assuming under that sweater is some exercise clothing. We saw those athletic shoes in the background. She is ready to spring into her morning workout routine.
No, I know Connie Fox. I know Connie Fox. Connie and her husband, John Gonzalez, are big sneakerheads. Nothing is an accident. Those are probably like Air Jordans. Yeah, that is a prop, is what that is.
Those are the shoes that I kicked off last night and forgot were still there. Did not clean them up. I didn't know you could see this much of the floor. Come on.
That's charming.
Well, thank
Colleen.
you. Thank you.
All right. So, and I also see the police record in the background. We both share a fandom of that great band. But let's get back on track here. Now, obviously, I remember seeing you on the field after the Super Bowl. You were crying after that amazing victory.
Oh
there
gosh,
you go.
That's embarrassing. That is embarrassing. You should not have that on your hand. You really shouldn't have that on your hand.
Please tell me you didn't pay for that, Colleen. Anyway,
that's not okay.
I remember that.
Oh, and it's a butterscotch crimpet, no less. Jeez, you are really bringing it today.
I don't even know if she knows she's on television right now. It's been obviously a tough run, but you were there on that field, won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz didn't play in that Super Bowl, of course. That was the Nick Foles season. But I imagine you have a tie, and I'm going to keep talking so you can chew and swallow. I imagine you have a tie to Carson Wentz, an emotional tie. Are you willing to maybe just cut the cord here based on this disastrous season if Jalen Hurts does something in his last 4 games?
The tie is very loose. It's more like a string. It's more like a very loose thread that can be cut at any time. So yes. Carson Wentz, he's broken, and he doesn't look anywhere near the same that he looked in 2017. All right,
you sound like a WIP caller right now.
Oh wait, did you guys book like Colleen Wolfe from Philadelphia or Colleen Wolfe like NFL media host? Because I thought it was Colleen Wolfe from Philadelphia. You guys have to specify. You know that, right?
No, this is good. Keep going.
Listen, this is a situation where Carson Wentz, they're just gonna have to, they gotta let him loose. I mean, they gotta let him fly and live out the rest of his NFL days, maybe on a nice farm somewhere where he has a lot of space to run around. But listen, for real though, he had every single time that I feel like they would maybe get something going. I mean, he would take unnecessary sacks so many times. Even when he was able to throw the ball, they were sailing over guys' heads. They were at their feet. I mean, this was just such an absolute disaster. And maybe sitting him will help him, and maybe he'll be able to get some clarity and unplug and, do some type of like eat, pray, love situation for him. But right now it's not working, and Jalen Hurts is. And sure, 1 game, very small sample size, but what I've seen so far, I'm liking.
No loyalty in those streets of Philadelphia.
Real quick, what an uplifting song that was. Real quick, one, Dan acknowledging synchronicity in the background like it's the magnetic fields or something, and the two of you are in this exclusive club that happens to like the Police. That's number 1.
I think that album sold like 14 copies, right?
Yeah, exactly. It only won like 9
It's an amazing album.
Year, as a matter of. So you know what? Let's end on that then. Connie Wolfe there. Or Connie Fox or Wolfie, all the nicknames we have for you. What is your favorite track on Synchronicity there? What is your favorite track from that seminal album from the Police?
Well, they're all so amazing. Like, how am I really supposed to pick my favorite children?
Boy. That is.
It's sort of. You know what? I mean, I like Oh My God. Why don't we go with that one? I feel like
look at that.
It's a solid one.
I thought you were maybe doing the politician thing where, you throw out the first pitch and they're like, who are some of your favorite White Sox players in history? Well, I
Hamina.
I like them. But well done. You dug deep.
Thank you.
Colleen Wolfe, you see her on that there Thursday Night Football on the Good Morning Football. Absolutely love it. Came today with crimpets, with a holiday sweater, with a Super Bowl ring, with dead stock sneakers, with freaking synchronicity in the background. A heck of an appearance, Colleen. We appreciate it.
All right, guys.
And when we return, there
later.
she goes. She's still going. You know what? I put mine away too. I would have loved to have. Oh wait, here we go. I'll join you. All right. When we return, we attempt to uncover some upsets. A bottom 8 team taking it to the top of the pops. Which playoff party is getting crashed in Week 15 next? Back on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Here it is, the final quadrant, 25 through 32. Philadelphia Eagles right there. A splendid chat with Colleen Wolfe, host of Thursday Night Football and Good Morning Football Weekend. Certainly enjoyed that, but you know what, Dan, it's time to get back to business. And the business that we are in for this particular segment is upsets. A team from that quadrant that could soil the hopes of a playoff potential team looking to make a run to the Super Bowl out there in Tampa this particular week in Week 15. Which of the matchups are you focused on?
And quickly pulling back the curtain, Colleen texted us after that last segment, said Wrapped Around Your Finger is her favorite Synchronicity song. Just wanted to get that out there.
She should have stuck with that.
Synchronicity 2 is mine. Let's get into it now. Okay, I don't care. Here we go. Let's stay focused. Here we go. The Bears. The Bears are the team. And our producer, Matty Tanton, suffering Chicago sports fan that he is, rolls his eyes because there's nothing to really be salvaged or gained from Mitch Trubisky finishing the season strong because it's already a failed experiment, and it's almost like he's auditioning for the rest of the league in these final games. However, he's played very well the last 2 weeks, and the Bears are perhaps playing loose at this point of the season. And guess what? The Vikings, it's been weeks since they've played a good team or played a good game. So I'm going with the Bears, and I feel good about it.
Well, I'm going to go with the team that was on the opposite side of the score, and why you're saying the Bears. And that's the Texans. Their defense looked terrible against Mitch Trubisky, against that Bears rush attack. But they played okay against the Colts. And by the way, they should have beat the Colts. I mean, that's, if you really boil it down to a botched snap between the center and Deshaun Watson at the 2-yard line that cost them a game. They were trailing by 6. This is a team that was able to put up a bunch of points, move the football. Deshaun Watson, for over 350 yards passing, had a rushing touchdown. They're division rivals. These are the kind of games that ruin teams late in the season, right? Because you know each other so well. So that's the one I would probably circle.
I mean, they're one PED suspension or hamstring pull from Money playing tight end. So I don't know how excited you get about Houston on offense.
Big body. And it's time now for Power Moves, presented by Energizer. Still going, as she is the dean of derivatives, the premier predictive analyst in the land, and she's dipping into the depoy, as the kids call it, rankings this week. So, Cynthia, let's deliver some details on your Defensive Player of the Year rankings. I believe you're coming with 3, and we are going from 3 to 1 here. Is that correct?
Yes, that is totally correct. So, second runner-up to the depoy in my model is Tre'Davious White, the corner out of the Buffalo Bills. He's been super impactful, not just when he's been the subject of when his pass catcher was targeted, but also he's made it so that quarterbacks have had to hang on to the ball a lot longer. He's blanketed all of the receivers or pass catchers that he's covered. And in this case, when I watched the film, his impact on that defense is really a huge anchor. And if he's not playing, it changes the game like completely, 5 or 7%, which money knows. That's a huge amount in my model.
Well, I do know that, and I guess it would immediately, as soon as you said Tre'Davious White, Xavier Howard popped into my brain, because I'm trying to figure out how you have another corner that's not named Xavier Howard as your top, unless maybe Xavier Howard's going to be the number 2 or the number 1 guy. But 9 interceptions on a defense that is to some degree devoid of stars, save the secondary. He's kind of been the straw that stirs the drink in Miami, and he is having it's hard to overlook 9 picks, Cynthia.
So picks are a little tricky because sometimes there's luck involved and sometimes there's not. Being in the right place when a quarterback gets pressured or when there's a deflection, there's a lot of things that can happen with an interception. I'm not saying anything's wrong with Xavier Howard. I think he's great. But when you look to see kind of one player, sometimes when there's 2 good corners, it kind of takes the shine and brings it to, both
Byron
of
Jones
them.
on the other side. That helps a little bit, certainly. All right, how about number 2?
Okay, at number 2, Myles Garrett. Models love pass rushers. Why? Because they change the quarterback's ability to throw before the ball's even delivered. So it doesn't even matter which quarterback is going to throw the ball. It's just, you're getting there and there's no way for that guy to have the same completion probability that he would have if there were no pressure. So Myles Garrett, his ability to force fumbles, to force turnovers, his use in the pass game is really something to behold. And also, the number of times teams are double teaming him are just ridiculous. Double, triple teams. You always have to account for Myles Garrett, which changes the space of the entire defense and therefore the opportunity for opposing offenses.
Myles Garrett, obviously a special player. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. That's interesting. But where is Myles Garrett yesterday against the Ravens? I mean, that's the truly special guys step up in big moments, and he was invisible against the Ravens, and that to me knocks him off this list. It's that level, the spotlight there.
Okay, I mean, you could say that. However, I think you have to look at the things that the Ravens were doing to make him seem invisible to the naked eye, right? They were putting 2, 3 players on him on every play, so that really did change the shape. Now, running at pressure is always the way to deflate pressure, but realistically speaking, this is a fact that Myles Garrett is a problem, and they have to assign extra bodies to him.
I mean, I think certainly Myles is in the conversation as one of the dominant ends in the league. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Myles Garrett. I would assume all of those are clumped pretty tight together when it comes to trying to figure out which one of them you're going to pick. And I just kind of extend this conversation, Cynthia, because I know where you're going with number 1, because there's only one player that could be at number 1. He's the same guy that's there every year, right?
Yes, Aaron Donald. Now, I went back and I updated these for last night. I know it sounds strange, but you have to keep the rankings all just right. So if you look to see 75% of plays, that's 3 out of every 4 plays, Aaron Donald has at least 2 people, if not 3, that are assigned to stop him. That's ridiculous. The fact that he's getting so many pressures despite so many other people being involved in trying to stop him is out of control. Aaron Donald's also very helpful in the run stopping game as well. And when it comes to a prototype at the interior defender position, nobody has been doing it with more consistency, and that extends into this season than Aaron Donald.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I think, Dan, you and I are now, we're now thinking of this theory that we're not arguing Aaron Donald, right? That's fine. Aaron Donald's the defensive player of the year. That's not a question. And
we love your Christmas tree, Cynthia. We absolutely love your background game all year. So this is not personal. Money, go ahead.
Someone's missing. Yeah, where's TJ Watt? Come on. I know that TJ Watt's got to be in the top 3. You got to boot either did Tre'Davious White and put TJ Watt in there, or Myles Garrett and put TJ Watt in there.
You know the problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense when it comes to picking just one? The problem is to pick just one. They function as a unit, which means they're incredible as a unit, which also means each individual one could probably have a win share unit, which is what I use to project who should be the defensive player of the year. They could probably have a leading one on a different team. But because they're all together, they kind of split. I mean, Cam Hayward's like, I guess TJ Watt, but like, what about me too? And what about Minkah Fitzpatrick? And what about Bud Dupree? And what about? And unfortunately, that takes a bit of the shine away from the one person.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, not for me. I'll take the best player on one of the best defenses in the league as your defensive player of the year. But hey, we're not the ones with the math degrees from Northwestern and Boston College. So what the heck do we know?
Freeland,
I think we all take Aaron Donald.
money. Freeland gets them talking, and that's what this list is.
Exactly right. And you know what? You can see everything that Cynthia does with those great analytics and her math magic at NFL.com/Freeland, FRELUND. Up next, elite content entry. Impact matchups. The 3 games that will lead to the biggest movers come next week's Power Rankings. And there might be an upset brewing in there next. All right, we're back on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. And don't forget, an AFC West rivalry takes center stage on Thursday Night Football this week as the Chargers take on the Raiders in Vegas. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. Eastern, followed by kickoff at 7:30 Eastern on NFL Network, Fox, and Amazon Prime. Let's get to some impact matchups, 3 games that we think will have major impact on next week's Power Rankings. We scratched the surface, Dan, on Bears versus Vikings, and they looked like the 2018 Bears out there, right? Khalil Mack was dominant. Roquan Smith with a couple sacks. They used a 80-yard touchdown run and route to a 100-yard day from David Montgomery. Mitch used a lot of short passes, a ton of boot action to pile up 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was really that D. It was a complimentary performance by the offense to support that defense. And look, the Vikings' Kirk Cousins got hammered by a dominant defensive line last week. They couldn't keep him upright. And they're going to face another dominant front again this week, and I think we're going to see more of this.
Yeah, the Vikings, struggled the last 2 weeks before the Bucs game, so you kind of saw that loss coming. And the curse of the Minnesota Kickers, it's so strong, it's more powerful than any man who tries to break it. Dan Bailey, just the latest in a long, long line.
All right, let's go next up with the Patriots and the Dolphins. And you know what? I credit the Dolphins. It's hard to credit a defense for giving up 30 straight points when you have a 10-0 lead. But also they had some stuff kind of go, I almost said something terrible there. Some stuff go awry for them after creating all those turnovers where they couldn't pile up enough points to take out the Chiefs. And you just have to play a perfect game. But I think about the Patriots in week 1. I think about that secondary versus Cam and how they used a dominant run game to neutralize it in that week 1 win. But that was a Ryan Fitzpatrick game. He threw 3 picks. They rushed for just over 3 yards per game. This is a different Miami team, and I think this Patriots squad is going to have a heck of an issue with them. But it's in division, and we know what Bill Belichick can do to rookie quarterbacks.
Absolutely. But I'm with you. I think the Dolphins are set up well here. Not only with a win would they put a stranglehold on a playoff spot, but they would also essentially eliminate the Patriots from the playoffs. And there's every team in the AFC East that's not New England that wants payback. This is Miami's turn.
So let's go Giants. We talked about whether or not their season's over after dropping that game to the Cardinals. And you see Hassan Reddick, 5 sacks. Andrew Thomas had a miserable day. And you just heard Cynthia talk about her number 2 player in the Defensive Player of the Year rankings, one of the most feared pass rushers in all the land, Myles Garrett, and what he might be able to do to that front. But on the other side, you got that Giants defense versus Baker with Lenny and Lawrence up front, Martinez, Crowder in the middle, and a secondary that has been so good this season. We know it's got to be just right for Baker to excel. So I think it's going to be a better game than some folks think.
And you know what? Baker made me a believer against the Ravens. I've been up and down on him for the last 3 years. But there is something about Baker. There's something special, and I took that out of that game. I really do believe Cleveland's going to finish strong, and Baker's a big reason why.
Yeah, it starts with this one. They got to beat the Jets and Giants in those back-to-back weeks. Let's get to honest assessment. Some teams we did not dig into deep enough, perhaps, through this portion of the show. Dan, some quick hitters here. We start with the Steelers.
Yeah, at some point, this offense needs to have some more imagination. You saw the way the defense for Buffalo just sat on these short routes. They have talented receivers. You have to open up this offense. Is it a situation where Pittsburgh doesn't know if Big Ben can handle that hanging in the pocket and bombing the way he used to do? There's got to be more of a vertical game if you can't get a running game going.
It's the most dink and dunk we've ever seen, I think, in the last 10 years trying to run, not to mention all the drops that those receivers are putting on Ben as well. How about the Cardinals? We mentioned, getting those 5 sacks and now putting themselves right back in that conversation for the number 7 wild card spot.
Yeah, Reddick had 5 sacks. They had 8 overall against Daniel Jones and then Colt McCoy at the very end. And I thought this was obviously such an important get-right game for them. And Kyler Murray as well, who looks like the shoulder injury from a few weeks is not an issue, and he's moving really well with his legs against the Giants. It's a good sign for them. They got back on track.
All right, and finally, we talked about an impact matchups. Just your thoughts on the Dolphins.
I love them. How can you not? Even as an old Jets fan, I enjoy watching the Dolphins week after week. They were so well coached by Brian Flores. And Tua, it's fun to watch a lefty quarterback, isn't it? Because he reminds me of the baseball version of Will Clark with that sweet lefty swing. Ugh. Sometimes lefties just look better, and it just comes out so smooth with Tua. Arrow up in Miami.
Now I'm in a bad mood. You said Will Clark. Well, you know what, then? Here's my revenge for you bringing up freaking Will Clark. Up next, get in your licks.
Not a Will the Thrill
All your
thing.
written insults hurled at the old Hanzuski are going to be celebrated like this one. This must be a joke.
Clark was a red butt, as they say in baseball, but a great ball.
Exactly. Yep. All right, back on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Here we go. Your feedback for Dan's Power Rankings. How are the Bills behind the Saints? Who makes these lists?
Calm down. The Saints are on a 9-game winning streak before this week. The Saints are A-OK, and Drew Brees is coming around the bend. That's one of the best teams in football, full stop.
I mean, but the Bills, I just like when the Bills Mafia gets after you. They are an unruly bunch. And actually, you know what? No, I don't, because they get after me as well. So, all right, let's get to the next one. You can always get us the feedback following the Power Rankings when they post. All right, this one says Tampa wins, and they drop 2 spots. This Dan dude is an idiot.
Well, Nick, obviously, you must be an idiot if you're willfully reading something written by a quote-unquote idiot. I mean, just Let's follow the string of logic on that one. But I will give him credit. I never do that. I never drop a team in the power rankings off a win. But in this one situation, I had to make a slight recalibration, and I dropped them too. That's the way it is. Whew, you're the idiot.
That's just a circuitous route of an explanation there. So, all right. Another one for the annals. A big thank you to all of you for tolerating our hijinks and tomfoolery. Thanks to Colleen Wolfe. Up next, replay Ravens-Browns Game of the Year right now on the network.